Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned, where we know the answers are on the inside. We live in a world begging for us to conform, asking us to play roles and follow the rules. And sometimes when we do that, we give up parts of ourselves that we then need to release later at any time, whenever that might be, so that we can live exquisitely aligned. I'm Gina Meyer Vincent, and today I am thrilled to bring you Juliet Dorris-Williams. She is a wife, a mother, a licensed social worker administrator, providing executive leadership of a peer recovery organization. Throughout her adult life, she has learned to successfully navigate the challenges that come with being a survivor of trauma and its accompanying twin depression. And I love when you say that, Juliet, because it's so eloquent, but also so true how they come together. Juliet credits the transformative power of her Christian faith, therapy, and peer support as instrumental for her healing. She is the author of 2 published works. Juliet was born and raised in Indianapolis and now lives in Central Ohio with her husband, and I love this, #1 cheerleader and soulmate, Timothy Sr. Their growing blended family includes 4 adult children, spouses, partners, grandchildren, and great-grands, which I love too. She is a lifelong learner with an insatiable curiosity and a seriously expensive addiction to books. So welcome, Juliet. I am so delighted to have this time with you today.
Hi, Gina. Thank you. That's always funny to hear that, but it's all true. Guilty.
Yeah. All true and so beautifully written. And so we do believe you sleep at some points, although we know how busy you are.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I apparently need to be reminded to sleep and rest. So there's a thing. And might need to add that to the bio.
Right. I was going to say, is that your cheerleader asking you to okay, come on now.
Stop it. Yes, stop it now.
So let's feed you, let's give you some water, and let's put you to rest and lay down for a little bit.
That's it.
So, Juliet, you and I spoke briefly the other day, and there was just so many things in common, from our passion for dragonflies to the color turquoise to transformation and healing. And so I love to touch on each of those things. Do you want to share, if you don't mind, a little bit about how we discovered that we both enjoy dragonflies? You were saying you put a post out.
I did. Well, I did. And I think I was, as I was shopping around for a new social media platform, because there's so many these days and it's hard to keep up. And I talked about how I had evolved from butterflies, because I'm known around as the butterfly woman. People, and I have this collection that I didn't do myself, because people know, find out that I love butterflies, and they just show up miraculously. Yeah. I have these candy dishes and pillows and all the things. I'm like, it's like, okay, pictures, postcards, whatever. Yes. And so people find out you love them. And then they just magically appear. And so for years and years, that was very symbolic for me. And then I discovered the dragonfly and the spiritual meaning behind that it was absolutely about change and growth, and the journey, the life cycle of the butterfly, how it has to crawl around for a minute, and as the caterpillar, and then go into the chrysalis and close in and go into a enclosed growth season. I'll call it that. And then it has to claw its way out literally of that chrysalis in order to for that metamorphosis of the beautiful wings and all of that. And it has to go through that process of clawing itself out of that chrysalis in order for that beautiful transformation to happen. And so I so identified with that journey because that felt so life impactful and so similar to my own journey of having to crawl out of, learned behaviors, survival, and in order to find a self, right? And so my journey to finding a self has been, well, hard. And so, it's not easy. And then, in the last few years, actually this has been a manifestation since and during, the COVID, the height of COVID and that whole journey, I think like 3+ years, maybe. And so,
craziness.
And I came across the dragonfly and the dragonfly kicks that transformation up a notch and then talks about evolution. And so you can transform, but will you evolve? And will you grow? Are you challenged to continue to evolve? And it's more than transformation. It is about evolution. So.
Yeah. And it's, oftentimes I speak about having been through hell.
Yes.
And, I'm glad you said yes, because I know some people are like, oh, don't use that word. But having been through something, sometimes I use the word hellish to make it sound a little more pleasant, but it's not pleasant, right?
HELL. All
it
caps.
is. Sometimes it's in neon or glitter, with, But, and that we have to come out the other side, like I know you said clawing, which is true, or like wiping off the ash, and crawling to that place where we find the light and, maybe become the light, shine our light so brightly that we inspire others. And that was clear to see in you when we met at the end of last week, because you just glow. And I thank you for doing the work, because transformation is not easy. It doesn't have to take forever, in my opinion. There are ways to partner with people, find the help, find the right people who can help you. I believe it's an inside journey, instead of being on the outside of what a woman my age should look like or sound like or wear or do or be as a mom. My kids would say, well, so-and-so's mother or everyone's mother. And I'm like, well, I'm not everyone, I don't have those kids. And this is the way I'm raising you. And might not be fun cleaning a bathroom, but you're going to know how to clean a bathroom,
That's right. That's right.
Or whatever it is, whatever I wasn't giving into that they felt they should do because someone else was doing. So it was tough raising 2 kids when you're like, no, that's nice, but very nice, but not going to happen here. You could even ask your father. I already convinced him it's not happening here now. But I too love dragonflies. And honestly, after I got off the call with you, I had 2 of them floating around me as I went outside.
Wow.
And I was I was trying to catch them on video to send to you, but they were just flying so wide that I knew you would have been dizzy trying to find, well, okay, now they're here, So anyway, but you were definitely on my mind as I was watching them and just enjoying every minute of it, making time to do that during the day. But so for you, when you mentioned in your bio, when I read trauma with I think you said ugly. Did you, now that I moved the paper, it's twin, the ugly
Twin.
twin, depression.
Accompanying twin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you don't mind, would you share for us as little or as much as you feel comfortable with today? Because I think we've all been through hardships, traumas, hellish experiences.
Yes.
And I think sometimes people are afraid to give a voice to them, maybe thinking they might be judged or feeling vulnerable.
Sure.
Like my shirt is sheer, like we're showing our undergarments. And so, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, because I believe when you share and give it a voice, you give the power to others to step up and share what they've been through.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. And so, and I should say, before I get into that, that I'm, very comfortable actually in sharing, one, that I am a childhood and adult trauma survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I'm comfortable is that the work that I do, I mean, this is kind of an everyday kind of thing. And so at any given point, I may need to, or I may be compelled to share a little bit of that journey with the people that we serve or the people that I lead in my agency. And so, that's just the joy and the benefit of working in a peer recovery organization. So, and so we'll talk about that at some point.
Yes, please.
I should say also that trauma is not a trauma recovery. It's not a one and done. It's talk about that evolution, right?
Yes, yes.
It's like a living experience, and that I continue to grow and learn and understand deeper meanings. Not that,
Yes.
not that painful stuff. I was looking for the meaning and the purpose behind them, but these are things that happened to me. And so, and I survived them and
beautifully survived. Yes.
thank you. And that survival journey is really what we talk about when we talk about the traumas. And so, so multiple traumas, the childhood part. So, my parents were young, young and didn't know. And of course, this is me, in looking back, right? A retrospective view. And so, and I'm older now. And so I can take that approach and see it with those in a very clear-eyed way. And I've had a lot of therapy. So, so they were young and didn't know what they didn't know and couldn't do what they weren't equipped to do. And I absolutely know, now that I am a parent, have been a parent, both a parent of a child that I birthed and a parents of children that I inherited via marriage, is that you can't give something that you don't have. Yeah. And so, does that let them off the hook? No, but I see that now, that they couldn't give what they didn't have or what they weren't giving themselves. But so I grew up in a very physically and emotionally neglectful, chaotic environment. Moved around a lot. Parents were together and not, violence in the home. It was very chaotic. And I was an only child of my parents then. And so I was a little bit of the bouncing ball. And so, a lot of schools, very unstable, very unstable environment. And so, and that was, and I was alone a lot. I was, one of my earliest memories is just being home alone, at 5.
Wow.
Maybe younger. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have goosebumps. Wow.
Yeah. I was alone a lot. So I learned pretty early that I was on my own, and
Yeah.
I had to figure out things on my own.
Hmm.
And that has, sadly, that little tendency of,
Mm.
you know, not knowing how to ask for help, and
Right.
that's a lingering kind of thing that I'm learning better to do. But because I was on my own, I had to figure out things
Absolutely.
way early, and so I was on my own, and that's traveled with me throughout all of my experiences, and so being a child without guidance and
Hmm.
without firm grounding,
Hmm.
um, that I think sets one up for um, things that happened. I mean, it was like a perfect setup for
Hmm.
me to meet a man who initially made me feel safe and secure, um, and have a family, of course, too. And
Hmm.
so, because I had these hopes and dreams, I call it now my white picket fence mentality of
Yeah. Yeah.
wanting to have the husband, the 2.5 kids, the dog, the fence, all the things. So I had that image, in my head about what I thought nuclear family is, or what I thought family was, because I certainly
Hmm.
didn't have that growing up. And so, but I met a man, married the man, um, and that man ultimately turned out to be abusive in every way.
Wow.
And all of the definitions of abuse, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, sexually. Um,
Wow. Wow.
back in those days, they didn't consider it. I don't know if I think
Right.
they've changed laws now about
Hmm.
marital
Hmm.
rape, but that was an experience that
Hmm.
I survived
Yeah.
in that marriage. And um, the upside, well, one, I survived, obviously, because I'm here with you, and did have the house,
Mm.
did have all the appearance of what appeared to be a good life. I had friends
Mhm.
tell me when I finally, I didn't disclose, because those, still
Right. Right.
dirty little secrets. You don't tell what's going
Right.
on in your house, and
Everything's peaches and cream.
peaches and cream. And so, and I'm a good faker.
Hmm.
So I can put the face on like everybody else, and everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Wow.
um,
Yeah.
and
And what
so,
work that must have been, right? That the energy that must have taken to like
right.
appear like everything is wonderful when,
Everything's wonderful.
yeah, when I would think you would feel um, violated, but also frightened, you
Yes.
know? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I learned to, learned some super powerful skills of compartmentalizing a lot
Mm.
of things. And that came from the childhood stuff of being on my own
Yeah.
and having to figure it out. So because I can figure it out, I'm smart. I can, I can figure it out. I can fix this. But in any case, well, I didn't fix it. What I did do though, there is a joy. There is joy because my daughter was born to that union, and sadly, she had to witness some pretty
Mm.
unpleasant things before Juliet's like, okay, that's enough of that. We're not doing that. So we're not doing that. Um, it stops here. We're not doing this. And so, so because I lived with it for several years until
Hmm.
the one day that that situations happened in front of the kid. And I'm like,
Hmm.
nope. That's too far. So that's too far. That's enough of that. And so I left. Um, I left, and we separated for about a year, tried to reconcile again because guilt, mommy
Yeah.
guilt, all the things. And that was short lived. And so finally I left for good, and became single parent for quite a long time. Found a home, made a home for myself and my daughter. Found some solace in church, because I had grown up in the church, and so the church was a big part of my own, just my own grounding, spiritual grounding. So in ways that I haven't really dug into a lot, but it's always been a grounding place for me. And so I found a church, because I walked away once I left the church, also because I had this image in my head about the white picket fence and all the things that the Christian Bible teaches about marriage and all that stuff. I had all that stuff in my head as well. But then I walked away from church, walked away from God, walked away from marriage, walked away from life, and built it from the ashes that were my life at that point. And so that set me up for a whole other journey through church and ministry and all of that stuff. And I spoke to the shedding, that word, and the unlearning of things. Some of those early messages that I got in my childhood church grounding stuck with me. And so in my latest book, I talk about the unlayering process that I had to go through to just keep peeling off that indoctrination and peeling off what was me, what was not me, what was somebody else's interpretation of what I was reading. And because I was pretty devout in terms of my faith and studying the Bible and all of that, I was very devout. And so, it's interesting to me when people try to church talk me, because I'm like, sis, sir, you don't know what you're doing. So do you really want to go down this path? Okay, let's go. So let's go, because I have read the book 2 or 3 times, cover to cover. I went to school for this. So, don't come for me, because you might not like what you get if you do that. And so, but so that devotion to what sort of got manifested in church setting, really also, there's this word again, evolved into a broader, more spiritual connection to the universe and to humanity. So I discovered my humanity, right? Once I shed some layers, and I discovered common humanity, and that we're all just struggling to try to understand, trying to understand meaning and find our purpose and find what the heck are we doing here, and why, and how do we make that make sense?
Right.
And so then fast forward to COVID. So for many years, some of that evolution was sort of, I don't know the word to use, stopped. It was maybe stopped up, like a stuffy nose, with my desire to reconcile with my mother. My father died many years ago when I was 24 or so. And my mother, for reasons, I think some undiagnosed mental
Mm.
illness, and in therapy, when I've talked to my therapist about it, my therapist clearly diagnoses it for me. It's like, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking something else. And but some of my so having to let that go, and I held on to that for the longest
Yeah.
time because I wanted the mother that I never had,
Sure.
and apparently was not going to get because she died
Mm-hmm.
in December of 2020,
Mm.
the first year of COVID.
Yeah.
So, so COVID was just a tough year on all of us that first year,
Yes.
and it was already tough. I was running an agency, I was worried about how to keep these 29 humans that I lead safe and well. And it was tough. It was a tough, tough,
Mm-hmm.
tough year. The whole George Floyd, murder,
Mm-hmm.
which,
Right.
as an African American woman, it was so impactful. And, so all the trauma of that, I mean, racism in and of itself is on the trauma spectrum. And so
Sure.
having to have those images in your head and
Mm-hmm.
having that be the subject of constant conversation, it took its toll.
Yeah.
I did not realize that it took its toll until so three things happened in the month of December
Wow.
2020. One of my teammates died due to complications of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of my teammates, um, close relative, died of via overdose,
Mm.
and my mother died.
Right.
So two things that were sort of outside of myself, but impacted me in ways that I didn't
Yeah.
expect.
Right.
And then my mother died. And I didn't know and she apparently learned she'd been sick for some time, didn't know any of those things.
Mm.
So cause we were estranged, and that's when all the tools that I had, that compartmentalization stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tool that I used to just keep walking upright and keep um, going. Just the closet that I stuffed all those feelings in was full, and it all came tumbling out.
Mm. Yeah.
All came to. I've been telling people that the door to the closet just sort of said, "Yep, nope, not
Yeah. It
not
came
one
up.
more."
The vision I'm getting, it's like it came unhinged, you know?
Unhinged. Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
Not happening. No more. So
Yeah.
can't put another thing in that closet, Juliet. You got a deal
Yeah.
now.
And
Um,
I think that, if I could stop you for just a second,
sure, sure.
I think that happens a lot, Juliet. I have a client who recently that word came up, compartmentalizing things. And she said, well, I can do it for this in my work. And I said, well, if that's the case, when your neighbor says something that's similar to what you see in your work, you know, oh, I didn't think about, but um, she compartmentalizes a bunch of different things. And after a while, I just wonder, because I kept saying, maybe if you step away from this, like shed is your word,
Right.
release this, stop doing this, you'll feel healthier. It won't, it won't play on your mind. You'll sleep better, la, la, la. And she's like, well, I compartmentalize these things and it works for me. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure how long that would work for. So that's
It
the vision I just got, was like, boom, you know.
it can work for a long time, and it will work until it stops. And
Yeah,
so, and I was fine. I was perfectly fine,
yeah.
until the hinges of the closet of the door of that closet where I was stuffing things said, not a single thing can we put in here anymore. And it all came tumbling out. And so I probably need to update my bio to talk about the accompanying twin of depression and hello, it's kissing cousin, anxiety. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that's what that is. So,
yeah.
so I had a lot of feelings that I didn't know what to do with. So, and because over the years, I know that, to, keep the phone number of the therapist handy. So, so made the phone call. Took a minute to get into her office because apparently a lot of us during that time were struggling, right?
Yes.
So
It was all of a sudden, people were being honest and truthful and sharing that this is making me feel a way that's not good. And I'm ready and raising their hand to say, hey, I'm ready for help. And so, I mean, I hate that we went through it. I hate you went through this, but in the same sense, I'm thankful for the enlightenment you chose for yourself and that you trickled down to your gorgeous family and everyone whose lives you touch with your podcast, your books, here with us today, in your agency and so forth, because, you know, I just say kudos to you for that. But do tell us, so you got the appointment and these were feelings like, whoa, an ocean of, I'm guessing like a big wave of emotions.
definitely a wave. Because I had compartmentalized so long, Gina, it was hard for me to even articulate emotion, my own emotions. And so a therapist did, helped, gave me an exercise, to keep a color chart of emotion. And so I had words to describe what I was feeling. Yes. And so, because right then I was just a ball of emotion and I couldn't separate anything out. So I kept a color chart for a couple, 3 weeks, and I was pretty religious about it because that's what I do. Yeah.
I think you see the end in, I think you're religious about it because you see the end in sight. You're ready for the healing, you know, and I love that about you because it makes us do the work then, right? We do want to be religious about something when we know this can help us to get to the next evolution, to be the finest version of ourselves. So, yeah.
So I did that, and found words, and, you know, simple words, emotions. I mean, there's, you know, sad, mad, glad, happy, you know, whatever. I didn't have simple words. I mean, I'm a smart, intelligent woman, and I didn't have words to describe how I was feeling. And so she gave me the words, she gave me the colors and said, "Oh, you can assign the colors." She said, "But keep this chart. I want to know where you're at." And so, and meanwhile, I also discovered, because I have a serious addiction to books and information, I discovered tapping meditations. Yes. And I said, well, okay, I can do that from home. It's 10 minutes. I can try that. And so, because I'm like, whatever. And so, and I tried that too, along with the color charting. That actually, both things were super impactful in terms of helping me to get to the first appointment, to the next appointment, appointment, because I'm ready. I'm like, I'm going to need some medication. I need you to give me some medication. I was there. And she said, okay, well, before we do that, because I'm like, I need a pill. Give me a pill, please. So, okay, before we do that. All right. So I got through some, you know, employed some other strategies to keep me intact emotionally, or keep me in a calm, peaceful, relatively speaking, place. And then over the next 18 months, working with that therapist, with her, lots of that unlayering again, you know, a lot of talk about my mother, and a lot of talk about my parents, and a lot of talk about my childhood and how I got here, and trying to make sense of why is this way, and how do we get here, and having a proper you don't want to diagnose people that you've never met at all, but
Right.
with her giving me, and I'm a social worker, and I missed it because I thought it was like she's like super depressed or something,
Yeah.
or she's probably a trauma survivor herself, and all the things. And she's like, yeah, no, it's deeper than that. And so she gave me books to read, and it's like, okay, so I was dealing with something completely different than what I thought I was dealing with. And it was never going to work. So, and so I could let myself off the hook for not being able to fix the relationship with my mother.
Yes.
And I think that at the end of it all, what triggered the closet door, like, demolishing itself, was the hope of that some kind of normalcy with my remaining parent. It was gone, and I had to deal with the reality of what that was. Yeah. And so, and once I let go of all of that and all of that hope, and so then what are you left with? You're left with yourself.
Yes.
And so talk about. That's when the dragonfly imagery started.
That's exactly what I just saw in my mind's eye. I saw,
evolution.
Iridescence, shiny, yes, just carefree, freedom, movement. Yeah, that's exactly what I was seeing as you were speaking.
So there's transformation, and then there's evolution.
Yeah.
And so here we are. And all through all of that. And so I've shared the story of doom and gloom. But for 25 years, I, had the wherewithal to meet a man who was from the day that I met him to this day, 20, and we're just a few days past our 25th wedding anniversary. And thank you. He has been the one to help me understand the concept of home and family, and 100% having your back support.
Yes.
And not something that I had growing up. And again, that thing about being on my own forever. And he has to remind me, Juliet, you don't have to fix this.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Juliet, you don't have to fix this. Okay.
Yeah.
So let it go.
Yeah.
So that's my Tim.
What a beautiful love story. I know that he probably feels the same way about you, and that's.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel it through the camera, honestly. So that is just, and I say kudos to you in so many ways, and thank you. And unfortunately, English is really my only language that I speak fluently, but I feel like there's oftentimes not the right words to be able to say, I commend you, Juliet, for being able to share so transparently, not just with me, but through your agency, through your family, with, everyone, and making it through to the other side with a smile on your face and a glow in your heart, and that shines through your eyes. And to be able to put words to it, because I think that I don't want to say what you've been through exactly the same way, but snippets of it are things other people have experienced or are experiencing currently that maybe they haven't been able to do the transformational, evolutionary work to get to where you are now. But I know you inspire them. And for that, I'm happy to be walking the earth at the same time. And that Mary Lou has introduced us, because, it just makes the world a better place. That's, I guess, the way for me to say it. So kudos for you. I know, we talked a little bit about shedding, which is a word that I may have to borrow and use. As Juliet would say, shed. I told you before we started filming, I'm really loving that word. For me, I always use the word release, let go, whatever. And I always tell people, listen, you're your own authority. I believe exquisitely aligned means that we remove all those veils like you were talking about and get to our true self, the one we were born to be, and those life experiences, how it shaped or polished or refined us, versus those rules that we were playing by and the roles that we were asked to take on as wife, as mother, as entrepreneur, as somebody living in California versus, you as an author, whatever people think we should look and appear like,
right,
versus who we really authentically are. And I love that that's who you are, your exquisite self, each and every day. And that's incredible. But shedding, tell me, no, thank you, because I have 2 kids. I don't have grands and great grands yet, but I have 2 children. And so, when I meet someone like you and share this time with you, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you make the world a better place for my children. And hopefully I have grandchildren, great grands one day. And that's what I think we're here for. You mentioned those questions like, why am I here? Or why am I still here? What am I here to do, accomplish, and finding humanity? And I've always been a connector since I was small, and a very, I want to say I have empathy, but empathic abilities where I feel other people. And my daughter definitely, my daughter's adopted, so I can't say she got it from me. Not at all. She's adopted, and she definitely can feel other people's stuff, whether it's fabulousness or, the heaviness of whatever is going on. And so you shining your light, makes people like us feel really good, and it just lights the way for others. But I love the word shed. And
you may have it. It's not mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna use it, but I'm definitely gonna use your name along with it. I like giving other people credit for teaching me along the way. And it's such a simple, short 4-letter word, which, like the word busy is a word that I say to my kids, I don't want to hear. That's a 4-letter word, not allowed, because I think we can be very busy doing things that don't bring us joy, that don't align with who we are, that maybe don't even matter,
Right.
And so shed, another 4-letter word. I love it. But if you don't mind, tell us a few things, or maybe one thing, share with as much as you want, things like, how did that come about? And then what things have you shed? One of which I know is very heavy, that now is light. But, if you want to, whatever, because I'm guessing you've shed many things, and it's such a freeing experience when we release stuff that I was going to say doesn't belong to us, but I don't know how you you refer to it, but things that are not Gina,
Right.
maybe my parents wanted for Gina, or my husband wanted for Gina, or my kids wanted me to be this ideal mom. And I was like, no, I'm never going to win that award because I never put my name in the hat. I'm here to help you be the best, person out there changing lives. That's my job. I'm not here to be putting a nice note in your lunchbox. That's not who I ever was, you know?
So the thing about shedding, and I use release and let go also. The shedding part, the word why I think it feels like the word that I go to, is because it takes work to do that. Just the concept, the imagery of having to shed something, that is work. You have got to crawl your way, claw even, I used that word before, your
Yeah.
way out of that skin.
Mm-hmm.
It is shedding a skin, a layer of yourself that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
belong to you or does no longer belongs to you,
Right, 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 right.
because it may have belonged, it may have fit, it may have felt right, fit, for me for a lot of years. And when I think about my journey out of the church,
Mm-hmm.
it fit, it was comforting, it was
Sure.
familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and leaving the land of familiar is hard.
Yeah.
It's just all you know, and stepping out into what may be countercultural, or
Right.
may be you might have to disappoint some people in order to
Right.
choose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to. It is absolutely a series of saying yes to this and no to that.
Yes.
And so that is, and if you're, and I'm also kind of high on the empathic stage. I'm an INFJ, if that tells you anything. So I've got, I'm an introvert, I'm intuitive, and so high on the empath,
Mm-hmm.
scale. And you feel people, and you don't want
Yes.
to hurt them. You don't want to disappoint them.
Correct.
You don't want to have to say no.
Correct.
Um, and when you get to that place of no, no, just no, it's not easy,
Right.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, but probably a recovering people pleaser, as well. And so, and you want to make everybody happy, and you want
Right.
people, and whatever role you have or play in that happiness of the other
Mm-hmm.
person, you want to continue that. But at some point you have to choose yourself. And that's the biggest part, is choosing me, and
Yes.
letting, just getting it into my head that I was
Yes.
worthy to choose myself.
Yes.
And that has probably been the biggest, most important journey
Yeah.
that is ongoing. It's not finished.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
something that I have to practice,
Mm-hmm.
that I am worthy to
Mm-hmm.
choose myself, my own sense of worthiness.
Yes.
It's not effortless. It's
No.
not effortless.
And
So,
I did I went down a rabbit hole for that, for worthiness. Why do so many people struggle with this? Why
right.
is it? How does it start? Where did it start? How do we, and when I started doing the research, and you probably know this, it's centuries old. It's not something we just learned. This
No,
goes back, and you can see it if you start really peeling away the layers.
right.
Um, it was,
I think the church has a lot to do with that. Or
yeah.
I think that has done many of us a disservice in
Mm-hmm.
the what I now consider a misreading, a
Correct.
misinterpretation of all of our holy books.
Well,
I'm
and
saying all of our holy books.
yeah,
So
and I'm glad you said that, because for me, I never took it, even as a child, to mean that I wasn't worthy. So, but I love that, the misinterpretation, or
mhm,
listening to someone else's,
someone else's.
what they believe or how they feel. I just never felt that
Yeah.
personally from a young age. I just felt like, no, this is all about love. This is the
Right.
four-letter word that I was seeing, feeling, but again, and I'm guessing you were the same, I didn't see the world the way most other people saw it. So I just knew that, like, certain things I wouldn't express, I expressed, but then I realized, oh, people don't believe that or agree with me. So I'll just keep a little quieter, until now. Look at me. I have the microphone, the light, and you across, right,
Right.
out of my even state, not, doesn't even live next door as a neighbor, but, but yeah,
Technology.
yeah, but worthiness, that's a huge, huge thing that I think some people go their entire life and never,
Never. Mm-hmm.
sadly, never connect to their worthiness. And that's something I like to celebrate is, helping people find that. So I'm so glad you touched on that. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did want to share that I did find this goes back so far that it's not something that, we maybe picked up as a 3-year-old. This is something that goes beyond our parents, grandparents, great-grands. We're talking centuries in other countries, before the United States was even established.
I think it's become our universal human experience.
Yeah.
And if we both think that, then it's also our universal human work to embrace worthiness, and that in and of itself is countercultural.
Right. Yes. I could talk to you for days. I can share some of my dragonflies with you.
I love it. I'm going to get a tattoo. So
I'm not there yet. So I'll watch you get the tattoo. I'll hold your hand. You can squeeze my hand. I won't watch you. I'll turn my head because I'm not really fond of needles, and I'll admire it afterwards. But but shedding. So, what things have you when you're finding that worthiness? And choosing it, because I believe it's something we have to choose throughout the day.
Yes. Every day.
So when I work with clients, I sometimes ask them to, like at the beginning, set an alarm to do a morning and afternoon, evening, or whatever it is, to just check in and see, where are you at with worthiness? Where are you at with your emotions? Like you were saying, the color coded. I love that. Where are you at with the things you no longer want in your life? Did they pop up today? Okay. So now you see it's getting less, and the things you want more of are, so that we have this awareness. But as you're,
it's a process.
Yeah, it is. It's a daily process. Yes. But it's a fun process too, as you see Come on, Juliet, agree with me. It's a fun process.
Maybe on the other side. I don't know, but I'm back to it's work.
Yes.
So one of the things that I've done, big thing that I don't talk a lot about, because pretty much the proof is sort of in the pudding, because I keep of late, I've been running into people that I haven't seen for 2 or 3 years. And so they haven't seen a smaller frame me. And so when I'll walk past them, I'll go hello, and they'll say hello. And then we're doing the polite, how you doing? And then later they come up and say, I didn't recognize you. It's like, I get that a lot these days. So yeah. And so I smile. I get that a lot. But 4 years ago, no, longer. Let me step back a minute and talk about the impact of living with trauma.
Yes.
It has a physical impact, and we don't, I don't think we talk. I know we don't talk about the physical impact of trauma on the physical body.
Right.
And so I had early onset osteoarthritis, had hip replacements when I was in my 50s. Even doctors were like, you're early, you're young for these things. However, bone on bone will say, I might be young, but we're not living like this, because I got stuff to do. I need to be mobile. And so,
the pain with a hip, when you're bone on bone, like somebody said, well, what does it feel like? I said, it feels like somebody is electrocuting me. You never know if the electricity is going to go upwards, into the torso or down the leg, because Mark would say, stop cursing. And I was like, it was the only, I hate to admit it, but like when it every time my left foot would touch the ground, I
Mm.
wasn't sure
Yeah.
what was going to be, if I was going to fall because the pain was so intense, or I was going to get a zing, or
Right.
I managed the pain,
Right.
but when it
Mm.
became that zing, oftentimes a not so nice word would come out of my mouth,
Oh,
and I
okay.
try to keep it under my breath. And he's like, stop doing that. I was like,
Nope.
it's almost like fire that I had to release
Right.
out of my body through saying an ugly word, which it
Yeah.
sounds so ridiculous if you've never experienced it, but it
Yeah.
was.
Right there with you. So I had one on one side, left side, right side. I forget which was first, but they're 5 years apart. So both hips were replaced in a 5 year period.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, my Tim keeps reminding me because I put it off for a long time with all the reactions that you were talking
Yeah.
about. I put it off for a long time. He said, Juliet, we're talking about quality of life. It's like, yes,
Yes.
yes, you're right. And that process of choosing me,
Yes. Yes.
worthiness, all that came into play.
Yes.
So I'm strong. I can do this and I can get through it. No, I could not. And it's debilitating living with
Yes.
pain, living in chronic pain. It's emotionally, mentally, psychologically debilitating. And so two hip replacements in 5 year period. Fast forward 14 years later, the first hip replacement, the first implant failed. That
Oh
was,
gosh.
yeah, that was 2019. That was the year before COVID.
Right.
So it failed. And luckily I was at home in my house, walking from my home office to my kitchen when I was like, that feels weird. And then that was pretty much the last step that I took without
Oh.
crutches,
Oh.
because it didn't hurt. It wasn't painful because, it's an implant. It wasn't like my
Yeah.
bone, but
Yeah.
it failed. And so into the hospital I went for them to replace my
Yeah.
implant. They call it a hip revision. And you've been through this twice already, Juliet. So but that, Gina, I got to tell you, that recovery period was so hard.
I can only imagine.
It almost took me out. One, I was unprepared emotionally.
Right.
It was a surprise. I was
Yeah.
not
You were
prepared.
feeling good.
I was
Yeah.
feeling
So
good.
it's shocking.
It's shocking. And so the recovery from a revision is different than a recovery from an initial hip replacement. And I was emotionally debilitated. I was super non-mobile. I was completely, not 100%, but 80% dependent upon my husband and the people, the nurses and people that they would send to the house. It almost took me out, Gina. Emotionally, it almost took me out.
And you're like, what I want to give a voice to is you're a positive person, and it almost took you out.
It almost took me out.
And I think that's it's making me want to cry, Juliet, because I got to the point with my shoulder and my hip before they were both replaced, where I almost was like, if I'm going to live in this much pain, do I really want to live?
Right.
And,
right.
I first didn't share that. And then I said something to my husband and I said, Mark, you know me. Like, this is not how I think. This is not what I believe. This is not how I think. This is like, it's scaring me that my brain went there.
Right.
It's so
right.
I hear you. I mean, it's bringing tears to my eyes because, I feel for the person who doesn't have the spirituality that you and I share, the positive life, the supporting husband and kids and grandkids and great, like the world that you've created for yourself of support. I wonder the person who's alone, like really alone.
Right.
And
we
really,
were lucky. Right.
Yeah, really not thriving, body, mind, and soul.
Right.
Like, how do you get through that?
it was, difficult. It was hard. It was just hard. And, but obviously, I did recover.
Yeah.
But it was hard. But then I had to, knowing okay, so I had one implant fail. The other one is just 5 years younger than the one that failed. Yeah. Okay, this is a shot across the bow. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
What kind of changes, lifestyle, what do I need to do? And I've always been, a plus size woman, my from childhood forward. So the osteoarthritis, that was one shot across the bow that I probably ignored. And the one hip replacement, then a second hip replacement, and oh my God, a third. Really?
Yeah. Right.
And so it's like, that's when I thought, okay, so talking to the orthopedic doctors, and so what are the things that I need to do? And one of them was shed some weight, Juliet. Mm-hmm. And I've, tried every diet known to humankind, and failed. Tried them, failed. So it's not like I've not tried to lose. I mean, that's also seems like at least a universal female experience.
Yes, correct. I'm glad you even got that. Yes.
Yeah. We're too fat. We're too whatever, not occupying our body fully. Yeah. And so over a period of a couple of years, it took me a while to just come to grips with the fact that, okay, I've tried all these other things and have failed. What are some things that other things that I haven't tried? Yeah. And so I signed up for, with a bariatric, doctor and center, and went through the long process of psychological examinations and lots of appointments and lots of testing and all the things to lead up to, I think maybe a year that I was taking the steps. And it was still like the day before, like 2 days before surgery. I had weight loss surgery, by the way. 2 days before the surgery, I finally said, okay, I'm doing this, even though I've been meeting with nutritionists, I've been meeting with the psychologist, I've been meeting with all the people. Yeah. It was still 2 days before surgery date. I'm like, maybe I could do this on my own, because I lost 20 pounds. Just working with the nutritionist. Maybe I could do this on my own. And it's like, Juliet, stop it. Stop the madness. You have done this before. Stop it. Yeah. And so you've done it before. And so I thought, sometimes you just gotta get real with your own doggone self. Yeah. And, so just surrendering to that I needed bigger help than what I was able to do myself, because I can do it on my own, right? That's still that old messaging. Yeah. That old messaging. I can do this on my own. I can fix this. No,
I've done it before.
And failed before. And again, and again, rinse, repeat. And then I had to go through some pretty devastating, medical interventions to resolve some things that that needed to be resolved. So I did. So I actually did go through with obviously with the surgery, and 105, 6 pounds later, people don't recognize me if they haven't.
Well, I was going to say, that's like another person, like that's probably the weight of my daughter, who's 4'10",
Okay.
Well, if you ask her, she's 4'11". Sorry. Okay. So my daughter, who's 4'11", 5 feet most days when she fluffs up her hair. No.
Think about your daughter. I'm just a couple of inches taller than her. I'm 5'1".
Oh, wow.
So, and think of that plus 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's been a journey in learning how to eat differently, and prioritize some things, minimize other things. I
Yeah.
don't deny myself of anything that I want. I just can't eat a lot of it, but
Right.
There's certain things that I absolutely prioritize, which is water and protein.
Yes.
Water,
Yes.
protein. So,
Yes. And I think a lot of women don't realize the need for protein.
mhm.
They miss that. I know somebody who years ago wanted to have a baby, and, luckily her doctor said, "You're not eating enough protein.
Yep.
You're not supporting yourself enough."
Right.
And petite frame, thin, young, fit, was she even 30? I don't know, but let's say 28 to 32 age,
Right.
and healthy otherwise. But it's like, yeah, you're not taking in. So I'm glad you mentioned protein, healthy protein, right? I
Right.
mean,
Absolutely.
and water for sure. I mean,
Water
I have both when I'm on camera all day long. I walk around with, in the morning time, I still have a little bit of the hot tea, and then I have my water. But yeah, water and protein. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
And so back to the shedding part too,
Yeah.
and about that closet door that I don't have anymore. I think my theory, Juliet's theory, is that some of that stuffing of emotion,
Yes,
and that stuffing of psychic pain
yeah.
was in my body.
Yes, absolutely.
In my body.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
And so not only do I know I don't have my closet that I can stuff things in, I also don't have this body space to stuff emotions in. So I'm let's just say that I am like super real these days.
Yes.
I don't have the ability. I seem to have lost the ability to stuff things anywhere. I have nowhere to stuff them. So,
yes.
So here we are, shedding.
And that is, you just make me smile over and over and over. It's such a great joy to be sharing this time with you, because these are such powerful things that you're sharing that change people's experience of life. It changes their marriage. It changes their relationship with children, with siblings, with parents. I have somebody new that I'm working with one-on-one. And I said, let's talk about what you want to have more of, what, you want to release, let go of. And, what do you want? How can I help you? This was before she signed on to work with, before we both agreed to work together. And, I sat back with a smile, and I was like, these things are all interrelated. Mm-hmm. They all, like you're talking about, being super real and releasing and shedding and not having that closet that we're like, I'm a little taller than you. I'm 5'5" and a half. And maybe today 5'6", let's see if I get it, but, how much energy, like I was trying to explain to her, it takes for us to shove or push or close or lock that door and to compartmentalize. I think it probably brings down our fire of digestion, our metabolism, because we're just energetic. Energy is going to something that we shouldn't be needing to do, or don't have to. I don't know the right words, but you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I get it. Yeah.
And I love the way you said, I believe, but I wholeheartedly believe and feel it with you, because when we do get to that place, or hopefully we make it to that place, or we start realizing that we don't have to live like that, how freeing it becomes. And I think a lot of times people aren't able to attach words to their emotions. I think that we live in a society where oh, men shouldn't cry, or
Right.
children
It's a trap.
children should be seen and not heard, or
Right.
a wife should be seen and not,
Oh
whatever
gosh.
we heard,
Yes. Or
you know.
somebody said that was true when in
Yeah.
fact that is not. And that's so true. So true.
And so the color, I mean, you've given so many things, but your books, if you don't mind, share with us about your books. I love the fact that you're an author.
Oh yes. That was not something that was on my bingo card, by the way. I've written 2 books. One, the first one was Notes to My 25-year-old Self, a spiritual journey. That was 2011 or so. I sort of wrote that as a labor of love. My daughter turned 25 that year, and
Wow.
it came about through just a series of conversations that we were having, because she was, trying to figure out her place and
Yeah.
purpose and meaning in the world, and
Yeah.
she was feeling pretty down on herself, and I wanted her to know that her journey was one, not unique, and a lot of developmental in some ways, in terms of the journey of womanhood. I'll go there. So Notes to My 25-year-old Self, a Spiritual Journey was book number 1. Second book was Leaving Church, Finding Faith, 6 steps for finding your purpose in the world after leaving the Christian church. And so, Christian church, or what I call churchianity, was one of the things I shed. So living life on this side of, living life in a spiritual but not religious framework has really been, the word that comes to mind is expansive.
Yes.
And in terms of wholehearted living, and I'm a social worker, so we talked about that before. And so I've always been able to see, I think because I'm just drawn to that work, but also through training and education, that all of us are just miniature. We are all miniature worlds that are impacted by all the other things that surround us. So all the systems that surround us, we are the nucleus of the systems that surround us. And when you take into consideration of a person who's doing, name a thing that they're doing, good, bad, or indifferent, and especially when we try to pathologize people and their behavior, when you take into consideration the systems that they've come out of, the family system that they've come out of, the community, neighborhood, all the things that have come to play on that human being, some of their behaviors make complete sense when you take all of that into consideration.
Correct.
And so that's a social worker thing. That's me. I'm like a social worker to the bone. That you get that. And so you can't look at that person and look at that behavior and not consider all the things that are impacting that person. Get a bigger a systemic story of what's impacting that person and whatever it is they're displaying behavior wise on that day, on any given day. And when I shed that word again, when I shed dogma, church dogma, and some of those messages that I had internalized, and it's interesting to me now when I talk about that while I internalize that, because I have studied, I've read the book. And so a lot of times, and like you said, it's about love and forgiveness and grace and acceptance and all of those things. And whereas many of the churches that I have been that I have called mine over the years
Mm-hmm.
have been about
Mm-hmm.
separation and about judgment and about, who's worthy, who's not, who's in, who's out,
Mm-hmm.
not pulling everybody into the boat,
Right, right,
in
right.
the boat of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but having that still warred with me in terms of the things that I was actually reading for myself and understanding
Right.
myself and the things that I was showing up for on a Sunday or whatever day that I decided that I was going to church. And so that was a lot of unlayering and
Yeah.
getting down to the core
Yeah.
of of my humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And once, I don't know if that I'm there, because I think it's an ongoing process, but the more I the more I go down to that place, that core, the more I reach for that core, it's so hard for me to hate other people.
Right.
I just have this overflowing well of empathy for
Yes,
people because
exactly.
we're all just, bing, 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 indoctrinated
Mm-hmm.
with all the things, with the news and the medias and all the,
Mm-hmm.
and we're moving so fast, or maybe not, I don't know, or we got so many different things to deal with.
Yeah.
And, and everything around us is coming up that we're bad or not good enough or not
Mm-hmm.
thin enough or
Mm-hmm.
unworthy of
Mm-hmm.
care and concern and peace and
Yeah.
harmony and wholeness. And so, and the more that I connect with that part of me that I think connects with the universe, the more empathy I have for my sister and fellow humans.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I don't come from the same background as you, doing the work that you do, but I've always found people fascinating. So for me, like, why do they think that way?
Mm-hmm.
Why do they feel that way? So similar as you, but not coming from, just being as a child. Like, why does that person believe that or
Right.
feel that or think that?
Right.
And it's so true when you take a step back and realize what they've been through, or if we ask, right? So
Right.
many times people start making an assumption. This person is, my dad would say that person has a chip on their shoulder. And it's like, well, I wanted to know, why do you have a chip? If you do
Why?
have a chip,
Yeah.
why do you have a chip? Why
Why
does
do
this
you have a chip?
person,
And
yeah,
what does the chip mean? What's inside that
right.
chip? Right.
Yes. And do you
Um,
really want to carry it? Because it sounds like it
right.
might be throwing you a little bit off
Heavy.
balance.
It's
Do you have two
heavy.
chips? Like, so.
So there's an image, and if I find it, I'll send it to you, of someone drew a picture, a drawing of a woman with this huge knapsack on her
Mm,
back,
mm,
huge. And she was walking and just sort of bent over,
yeah.
and it was bigger than her, this knapsack that she was hauling around on her
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah.
that was, I mean, it was, if a picture, they say a picture's 1,000 words. That was
Right.
like 10,000 words.
Yeah.
We're all just walking around with these heavy
Yes.
knapsacks on our back, and the world is heavy, and
Yeah.
the world can be dark,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
um and those of us who, and you said this earlier, we found a little bit of light, or we know what the light is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I feel that I have to be intentional about
Yes.
not making it more dark,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
intentional about at least being a candle, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So, yeah,
And, that intention is something, again, we have to choose
you
daily
have
and
to
throughout
choose
the
it
day.
because it's
You know,
hard, because
yes.
people are challenging, and
Yes.
let's not get it twisted. People are challenging on the best day.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that I had shared with somebody, may have been on an episode, that I don't watch the news. And they sat there I said, it doesn't serve me. I don't feel happy or fulfilled listening to the news. And it goes against my parents believe I should be at least watching 30 minutes a day, which I think would make me need maybe high blood pressure medicine, depression medicine, or both, or I don't even maybe a third medicine, because I know how I feel physically and mentally and spiritually after taking in the news.
Yeah.
So for me, when I said that, I was just saying it off the cuff, but she sat there and stopped and was like, I never thought about that. And I was like, yeah, it's a simple choice, but it's something I'm intentional about. And I asked my husband if he would be intentional, because I watched how he would get like a bit anxious, not sleep right,
Agitated.
sleep well, agitated, definitely. And I said, I challenge you to find better, like something fascinating, like a conversation with you today, Juliet. We do have access to podcasts now. We do have access to different forms of television even. And how we choose to show up, how we choose to spend our time, and being intentional of choosing us as being worthy, and what we put in front of ourselves, whether we're reading, seeing, sitting someplace. So I'm glad you hit on all of the things that I love to talk about. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to pull a card from the Opening to Possibilities deck that I created back in 2017. I was trying to think when it was the other day, and I was like, wow, it's been a few years. So
I think I'm ready.
Yes. These are let's see. So I'll just shuffle, I shuffled. I'll thumb through and you just tell me when to stop. So I'll start now.
Stop.
Okay. I can't see the word. Oh, how funny.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh,
love.
Right.
It's so funny. Every time I do this, it always comes the right word for the conversation we've had. And I love that about this deck. So these were created to give a statement, 3 questions to either use as a journal prompt in case you're afraid of looking at a blank page, allowing us to go deep inside to connect with our emotions, like you were talking about earlier. And they could be used as conversation starters or for meditation. So it says, do everything in love, which I know you do. So the first question is, do you agree, which I just gave the answer to? What challenges can arise and how do you overcome them? I think we hit all of these.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we talked about the challenges and overcoming. I think we just said with the intentions. So was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Juliet?
I think I want to add that my daily, not daily, because I don't know, I don't think I think about it daily, but part of my intentional work, ongoing work, is going back to that statement about worthiness, that it's okay to love myself.
Yes.
It's okay to give myself love.
Yes.
And because I haven't always, and over the decades, I have looked outside of myself for love and validation, and being able to getting to this awareness. And I do think some of it might be developmental. Some of it might just be surviving, right? Choosing to love myself, choosing myself is an act of love.
Yeah.
And grace and gifts that I give myself. So,
well, and when you give them, I believe it fills our cup to be able to love better our spouse,
yes,
our kids,
absolutely, absolutely,
and so forth. And so that was beautiful. Thank you. So, Juliet, is there anything? Well, I just want to say, listeners, you can find all of Juliet's contact information, also a link to her books, because you'll want to read them. And but is there anything else you would like to offer, or final words?
No, I appreciated the conversation, and Mary Lou is magical, and so
Yeah.
she connects us, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful to meet you, a kind of a sister from another mister on a different
Yes.
coast.
Yes,
So
exactly. And the similarities just keep showing up. So
yeah,
yeah, no, Mary Lou is incredible. She's an incredible connector, and she was just on the show recently. So it was lovely to share the mic with her. And you are just delightful. I'm so glad for everything. You know, this sounds funny for me to say, but I think you can understand all the life experiences that you've been through have shaped you to be who you are today. And I know they weren't easy, comfortable, or enjoyable, but I'm thankful you've been through them and decided to take the journey far enough to reach that enlightenment and transformation, and that you're ever evolving. And for that, I say kudos, thank you, and I adore you for that.
Thank you, Gina.
And so with that, I just want to say we spoke about a lot of things today, one of which came up is why am I here? And I'd like to invite you to Purpose, Possibilities, and Prosecco, a 2-hour transformation like no other, where we are able to give you the clarity through a face reading and transformational mentoring. So you have 2 of us in a private setting, either virtually or in person. And you can find that also in the show notes. Till next time, be exquisite. Thank you.